Okay, let's get into this. You've brought us a really specific source, this match report from the Premier League website itself.
That's right.
And it's focusing squarely on that final day game, Manchester United versus Aston Villa at Old Trafford.
Right.
Sunday, May 25th, 2025.
Exactly. And what we want to do in this deep dive is really unpack what the specific report tells us, not just the score, but its analysis, its perspective on the key events, and crucially, the implications it draws for both clubs' seasons.
Right, the consequences as seen through the lens of this official report. So Old Trafford, packed house, what, 73, nearly 74,000 fans?
Yeah, 73,839 according to the report. Thomas Brimall, the ref.
And the headline news from the report, the final score.
Manchester United 2, Aston Villa 0. A win for United, loss for Villa.
And that result, the report makes clear, wasn't just about the day, was it? It had major season-ending significance.
Absolutely. It sealed fates, really, certainly in terms of European places and, well, the overall narrative the report presents for each team's campaign.
Okay, so let's dig into the key moments the report highlights. There seems to be one massive turning point, especially for Villa.
Oh, definitely. The report singles out the Emiliano Martinez red card. Big moment.
When did that happen? Right before halftime?
Yeah, 45 plus 1 minute. So first minute of stoppage time in the first half. The report details it pretty clearly starts with Matty Cash.
Ah, the back pass.
Exactly. A slack back pass, the report calls it. Hodgland was onto it in a flash. Martinez comes rushing out way beyond his area.
In contact.
Yep, a body check on Hodgland is how the report describes it, just outside the box.
And the outcome. Straight red.
Straight red. The report's pretty firm says referee Brimall had no choice but to wield the red card. No messing about.
But interestingly, the report doesn't just leave it at the foul, does it? It mentions Cash.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
It explicitly states Cash bears the majority of the blame for an awful misjudgment. So it acknowledges the foul and the necessary red card, but traces the root cause back to Cash's error.
That's quite a specific piece of analysis in the report. And the timing, just before the break, going down to 10 men. That must have completely changed Villa's approach.
Fundamentally. Especially as the report also notes, Martinez had actually been playing well up to that point. Made 4 fine saves in the opening stages, apparently.
So he was keeping them in it early on, only for that one moment.
Exactly, a real swing. And the report captures that irony, the early saves versus the decisive mistake and dismissal.
Okay, so Villa down to 10 men for the whole second half. How did Manchester United capitalize, according to the report? They got the win 2-0.
They did, though it took them a while into the second half to make the breakthrough against the 10 men. The first goal came in the 76th minute, Amad Diallo.
And the assist.
Bruno Fernandes. The report uses some pretty strong language here, calls it a stupendous cross. Found Amad at the back post, headed it in.
Stupendous. Okay, so a moment of quality unlocking the door. And the second goal. That sealed it.
Yeah, much later, 87th minute. Penalty.
Who took it? Fernandes.
Actually, no. Christian Eriksen. The report adds a little detail here, saying Fernandes graciously handed the ball to Eriksen. Nice touch.
And Eriksen scored.
He did. Smashed his penalty straight down the middle, is the description in the report.
And the report adds something else about Eriksen there, doesn't it? Some speculation.
Yeah, it notes this might have been his last game for United. Adds a bit of potential poignancy to that goal, if true.
Interesting, the report includes that sort of forward-looking rumor. What about United's overall performance? Beyond the goals, how did the report assess them?
It's a bit mixed, actually. It says they came out of the traps fast, started with good intensity.
Okay, positive start.
But then it says they were extremely wasteful for a lot of the game, couldn't finish chances earlier on. Eventually, though, it concludes they deservedly made the breakthrough.
So, wasteful but ultimately deserved winners on the day, according to the report's analysis.
Yeah.
But how does this win fit into their whole season? The report mentions their final league position.
It does. 15th place.
15th. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And the report doesn't mince words. It calls the season a huge disappointment, way below the standard expected. So this win was, well, perhaps just a small positive at the very end of a poor campaign overall.
A huge disappointment.
Yeah.
Does the report offer any reason for that, or any glimmer of hope, maybe, based on this game?
Well, the wastefulness mentioned earlier probably speaks to the inconsistency of the season, but the fact they did eventually break through and deserve the win might be seen as something. The report also links the game back to the recent Europa League final loss.
Right, they lost that final to Spurs just before this match.
Yeah, and the report touches on Rúben Amorim's situation. Mentions he'd suggested he might walk away after that final if the club felt it necessary.
And the report draws a connection.
It points out the irony, suggesting maybe if they'd shown this kind of finishing in the final, that whole question about the manager might not even be on the table. It even captures Amorim kicking a water bottle in frustration during this game after Casemiro hit the post.
Managerial frustration in action, noted by the report.
Exactly, but interestingly, despite the harsh season assessment, the report ends its analysis of United with a slightly more, maybe, optimistic line. It talks about a hint that there is light at the end of the tunnel for Amorim.
A hint of light, based on this win.
Possibly based on the performance, or maybe just the resilience to get the win after the European final disappointment. It seems the report wanted to find some potential positive, even while stressing much better is needed next season.
Okay, so for United,
Yeah.
a disappointing season overall, but this final day win, framed by the report, offers perhaps a tiny sliver of hope. What about Aston Villa? What does this 2-0 defeat mean for them, according to the report?
Well, it was brutal. It meant they missed out on qualifying for the UEFA Champions League. Heartbreak.
Where did they finish then?
6th place, which gets them into the Europa League, so still European football, but not the big one they were pushing for.
And the report mentions how close it was.
Painfully close. Newcastle lost their final game too, but Villa missed out on that crucial 5th spot purely on goal difference. The report really highlights that narrow margin.
Ouch. Goal difference deciding Champions League football. And Villa's performance in this vital game, how did the report judge it?
It was pretty scathing, to be honest. Described the first half before the red card even as hugely underwhelming.
Really? Even with 11 men?
Yeah. It mentions only a solitary John McGinn shot as any real threat. And after the break, playing with 10, it says there was little to change the narrative of the game.
So basically, they didn't show up when it counted.
That's the clear implication from the report's analysis. It delivers the verdict quite bluntly. The harsh truth is Villa fell flat when it really mattered.
Wow, fell flat. That is strong. Did it mention Emery's reaction, the Villa manager?
It did, yeah. Noted his sarcastic applause towards the officials when the penalty was given for United's second goal. A small detail, but it paints a picture of Villa's frustration, as reported.
And linking back to Martinez again, the report includes something else about his future, doesn't it? More speculation.
Exactly. It directly mentions that reports in recent weeks have suggested Villa may be open to selling Martinez in the upcoming transfer window.
So the red card incident could potentially be his last action for Villa.
The report raises that possibility, yeah. It adds the comment that it would be a sad farewell if this is indeed his final appearance, given everything the early saves, the red card. It connects the match events directly to transfer talk.
And this connects to the wider implications for Villa's future mentioned in the report.
It seems so. The report suggests that missing the Champions League means work may be needed to reshape the squad ahead of another tilt next term. The implication is financial, perhaps, that the difference between CL and Europa League income might force sales or require a different approach to squad building.
Right, so the report is suggesting this result could directly impact their transfer strategy. Now, beyond those huge moments, the report packed in a lot of other detail about the game itself, didn't it?
Yeah.
Little moments that add color.
It did. Like early on, before the red card chaos, it mentioned chances United missed. Mason Mount denied twice.
Supports that wasteful tag.
Exactly. Amad bundling one wide, Diogo Dalot hitting the post, although the report adds a caveat that that one might have been offside anyway.
Okay. And after the sending off, other key moments noted.
Yeah, Højlund had a goal disallowed for offside. Casemiro hit the post again. That was the one that reportedly made Amorim kick the water bottle.
Yeah, right. Anything for Villa, any near misses.
There was a moment of confusion, actually. Morgan Rogers put the ball in the net, looked like he took it off United's keeper Bandier, but the report clarifies the ref had already blown for a foul on the keeper, so no goal.
Okay. The report also lists the full officiating team, VAR included, Stuart Atwell on VAR, confirming those big calls like the red card and penalty.
Yep, all standard procedure details included, and it gives some context, too, with player stats and form guides.
What stood out there from the report's stats?
Well, it highlighted top performers across the season, Ollie Watkins leading Villa scoring with 16 league goals. For United, Fernandes and Amad were tied top on 8 goals each.
Fernandes again. He popped up an assist, too.
Top for United with 10 assists, yeah. Same number as Morgan Rogers for Villa, interestingly. And defensively, it mentioned Nusayr Mazraoui leading tackles for United, but Fernandes was actually quite high for United too, tied with Tielemans for Villa on 84 tackles.
So the stats in the report really back up Fernandes' importance, both creating and getting stuck in. Supports the inspirational captain line the report uses.
Definitely paints that picture. The report also briefly touched on recent form, United coming in off losses and draws before this win, Villa having had some wins before falling short here.
And the head-to-head record mentioned, historically favoring United.
Massively. 41 wins to Villa's 5 in the Premier League era, according to the report, though it did note the 0-0 draw earlier this season as, a bit different.
And substitutions. Any key ones the report highlighted in its timeline?
Should Dalot going off injured early for Mazraoui. Mainu coming on at halftime for United was a significant change. And Eriksen coming on to score the penalty, obviously. For Villa, bringing on players like Tielemans and Ramsey in the second half showed them trying to react, even with 10 men.
So, all these little details from the report, the missed chances, the disallowed goals, the stats, the subs, they build up the picture beyond just the score and the red card.
Precisely. They add context and texture to the report's main narrative points about United's wastefulness, Villa's struggle, and the overall flow of the game.
Which brings us back to why we're doing this deep dive, focusing so intensely on just one match report. You might be listening and thinking, okay, it's one game. Why does this level of detail from this source matter so much?
Well, I think it matters because this report, demonstrates really clearly how a single result, especially a final day one with so much riding on it, can crystallize an entire season's narrative. The report isn't just stating facts, it's building an analysis.
Right. It's using the events, the red card, missing out on goal difference, the huge disappointment tag for United, to frame its perspective on where these clubs stand and what comes next.
Exactly. The level of detail, the specific language used, the stats selected, the speculation included, it all contributes to the report's interpretation. It shows how the immediate outcome directly shapes the report's view on their European prospects, their need for squad changes, even the manager's standing. It's about understanding the analysis presented in the source, not just the events themselves.
So by dissecting the report like this, we see how one day's events are presented as defining the perception and maybe even the reality of a whole 9-month campaign.
Perfectly put. This deep dive into the report reveals a story. United ending a season labeled a huge disappointment with a win that offers maybe that small hint of light the report mentions under Amorim.
While Villa, on the other hand,
Villa see their promising charge for the Champions League end in defeat, marked by that pivotal sending off, and summed up by the report's harsh verdict that they fell flat, landing them in the Europa League instead. The report really contrasts those outcomes.
and the way the report frames these endings, it definitely makes you think about the future, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And that brings us to a final thought based purely on what this report suggests. It mentions Villa might be open to selling Martinez. It states work may be needed to reshape the squad at Villa Park. It hints at Amorim's situation and that light at the end of the tunnel at Old Trafford.
So the question the report leaves us with is,
Given all those threads within this single match report, what could the real, tangible implications of this specific final day result actually be for both clubs' transfer business and their performance when the next season gets underway? The report positions this game not just as an end, but potentially as a catalyst for some big decisions.